Now, after Kuma's heroics at God Valley, he goes back to his hometown with Ginny, while Ivankov goes off to travel the world. So 8 years go by, and he's working at the same church he grew up in, using his power to heal the people in the kingdom of their pain and diseases. And those 8 years sure did Ginny justice, because everybody's seen that she looking fine as hell. But she's only got eyes for Kuma, because little did they know that behind closed doors, he's actually taking on all the pain of the people he treats. Because if he doesn't, it's just never gonna disappear. So she's just treating him every week and trying to keep him in good spirits, and also saying how she wants to marry him, knowing it would make him happy, but he's scared to marry her because of his bloodline. He doesn't want her to suffer the way his family and he did. And around this time, he's seeing about a freedom fighter in the news named Dragon, and Kuma wants to dedicate his life to saving people as well. Meanwhile, the king of his own country has been acting like a tyrant, trying to enslave the citizens, so Kuma pulls up powered up like, nah, I'm not letting this shit slide, and tries to blow up his king's operation, but that just gets him thrown in jail with the rest of his gang. But those same freedom fighters Kuma was reading about ended up pulling up and saving his kingdom, breaking him out of jail, and it turns out Ivankov's a member of them, Dragon's revolutionary army. And they just go around freeing people from their tyrannical governments, so Kuma leaps at the opportunity to help people out like this. And we learn that Dragon actually spent some time with the Navy before realizing there was no justice over there. So that's why he's leading this cause to do what's right. So Kuma joins, and 8 years go by, and Ginny, who also ended up joining the revolutionary army, is finally getting close to a time where she can see him again. So she's excited and everyone knows it, but that's when she gets captured. And her disappearing turns Kuma into a man on a mission. And even though they continue liberating countries, he's still just thinking about her. And it turns out she was captured to be a celestial dragon's wife. So 2 years pass when they finally get a call on a transponder snail, and it's her, saying they threw her away after she got sick and that this is going to be their final goodbye. But Kuma's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's apologizing, saying she's on death's door and thanking them all for caring about her. So he just uses his power to try and find where she's at, and teleports back to Sorbet Kingdom, his home, but he finds her lifeless body covered in hardened skin from the disease she had. But the sickness only got this bad because she traveled in the sunlight, making it worse to ensure that her child that she had by a celestial dragon would reach the kingdom safely. And of course, the nobleman Kuma is, he takes responsibility for it. So Kuma's living out this role as a father figure while also being a revolutionary, fighting battles, training up Sabo, you know the deal. But it's not long before he realizes that she has the same disease as her mother. So Dragon agrees to help him however he can in finding a cure for her. But in the meantime, she can't go out in the sunlight because it'll just make her condition worse. But Kuma put a sweet little twist on it, calling the hardened skin her jewels, hence jewelry Bonney. So he's traveling around trying to get the best opinions from doctors, but he learns that at most she has 5 years to live, whether she stays out of the sunlight or not. So he's having the realization that she won't live past her 10th birthday, as she runs up on him all cheerful, and of course he doesn't have the heart to tell her. So he lies, saying her sickness will be over by the time she's 10. Well, of course she's happy as shit and this gets her hopes up, but it's not the truth. Now the King Dragon's army overthrew ended up spinning back and burning down a bunch of the people's houses. So like a true one-man army, Kuma just gets them all up out of there again. And after that, the people force Kuma to become the king of the country. And he's hella humble about it, but they all love him. Now at some point they all realize Ginny ate a devil fruit because she's running around age changing. So Kuma just makes arrangements for all his subjects to watch over her while he travels around trying to get a cure. And it's funny, like as he's leaving, the king he's overthrown like 2 or 3 times comes back again, so he destroys them one final time. And this is when he officially becomes a pirate. Now after Kuma leaves Bonney behind, setting out to sea, and officially being branded a pirate, he travels all around the world trying to find a cure for her disease, but everyone says the same thing, she's got 5 years to live. And eventually he runs back into the revolutionaries, so he chats with Dragon a bit but doesn't join back with them. He's still wandering trying to find a cure for Bonney. So Dragon agrees to help him out and take him to the smartest man he knows, and he has Kuma go get Bonney for bringing her to Punk Hazard, Dr. Vegapunk's original lab. Now he says he can cure her disease. The cost of the stem cell transplant is more than anybody can really afford. As he's reading Kuma's information, he's like, hold up, you're a buccaneer? You know I work for the government, right? And the celestial dragons just straight up enslave them niggas. He's like, yeah, I know. I trust dragons, so I trust you. He asks what's so special about his blood, but Vegapunk doesn't really give an answer. Before coming up with a way for him to pay for the treatment by allowing himself to be cloned as a model for a mechanized soldier, strong enough to deflect bullets and all this other shit. Now Kuma likes the idea of these clones being used to save people, so he goes along with it. Then says to cure Bonney, he'd be willing to make a deal with the devil himself. thanks him for being able to save her. That's where they come up with the idea to call them pacifistas, because Kuma's a pacifist. After Saint Saturn heard about their plan, he says Vegapunk needs to take advantage of this and has Kizaru pull up so he can talk through a transponder snap. At first he was against it because he doesn't want the face of a pirate representing the military, but then says if Kuma agrees to become a warlord and give up his free will and sense of individuality, then he'll authorize Bonney being cured. Now this pisses Vegapunk off because it'd just be turning him into a robot and killing him basically. But Saturn's just telling him to shut up, like you know who you work for. And Kuma just starts crying like, I've been worrying all this time, thinking it's impossible to save Bonney. But I'm so grateful and I'll happily accept any fate so long as Bonney is cured. So he volunteers for a procedure that's basically suicide, all so he could save her. Her treatment and his procedure are going to take place over the same time period, so by the time she's healthy, he'll already be gone. Which pisses Vegapunk off, but again, he works for them. And Kuma agrees to keep Bonney in the dark on everything, otherwise she'll be killed. All he asks is that they let her recover in his hometown, Sorbet Kingdom, and Saint Saturn agrees. So they both stay at the lab together while Vegapunk gets cracking. And while he's undergoing his procedure in secret, they're all just carrying on like normal. Then we see Kizaru's friendship with Vegapunk as they're all just having family time basically. And 6 months later, he tells her in a year that she'll be completely cured. Now Kuma's still intact up here and he thanks him for taking her back to Sorbet Kingdom to be taken care of by his subjects. And that's when we see Khalifa in CP8 before she got to CP9 stationed on the island as a nurse to watch over the whole thing. And she threatens Kuma one good time to make sure he doesn't try anything, saying a child's life is so fragile, but he's already agreed that he won't be coming back, unbeknownst to Bonney. Now he officially becomes labeled as a warlord, Kuma the Tyrant, and we get to see the news travel worldwide to all of our fan favorite characters, but the revolutionaries are caught off guard because there's no way Kuma would work for the fucking government. Now Kuma actually seen Luffy when he was 16. While he was traveling through the East Blue with Dragon, he seen some kid practicing attacks in the wilderness, and he notices the dragon's oddly familiar with the island, so he's like, yo, I just seen a kid over by that village. But Dragon's like, hey, if you gonna keep talking, you might as well kill me yourself. And this is where he admits that child is his son, which again is crazy because Dragon's the revolutionary, and he sees Luffy in the woods just itching to be a pirate. So he's still helping out with revolutionaries as he's writing letters home to Bonney, but the government agent is making sure she's not getting none of those letters and just tearing them all up, which is depressing because he was writing 10 of them a month with all these I love you so much and I miss you, telling Bonney how special she is, but from her perspective, Kuma's not checking on her at all. And also you see her using her powers more freely, but the agent just thinks she's seeing things, not realizing she actually ate a devil fruit. And they're also hiding that they know she has powers, but she just quietly undergoes the rest of her treatment as Kuma's having a conversation with Vegapunk about losing his personality, telling him that once it happens, the government can order him to kill children and he's not going to have any will to oppose. So all he wants to do is spend the remaining time he has writing to Bonney and telling her how he feels and how much he loves her. Now she still has moments just enjoying being a kid, but it hurts her deeply that she hasn't gotten any letters from Kuma, and he said he would write. Now again, the revolutionaries seen Kuma being named a warlord, but Dragon understands he must have some kind of reason for making a deal with the government. Now Bonnie's treatment is complete and the hardened skin on her body is completely gone, but the government agent still refuses to let her go outside because the deal was until her 10th birthday, because by then Kuma will be completely gone mentally. But the people in town realize that she's already been cured and scheme up a plan for her to escape. So this old lady acts as a decoy while Bonney runs to a ship that's been prepared to take sail. She's gonna search the seas looking for her father, but the agent catches on pretty quickly, starts running them down, saying she's gonna chain Bonney in the house. She recalls the figure and savior that Kuma told her about, uses her devil fruit to just hook the shit out of the agent. I still don't quite get her devil fruit, like give me a Nika-ish future, like okay. That marks the beginning of her journey as a pirate. The whole time Kuma's watching her grow from the shadows, but he's made a deal with the government not to speak with her. It's around this time Luffy beat Arlong's ass. We see Dragon go prepare to help him at Logtown with Smoker. There's the news traveling in general about both him and Bonney, two children of revolutionaries choosing to become pirates. Some more time passes and Kuma sees the army of Pacifista and is forced to tell Vegapunk that Dragon has a son because he's going to see his memories anyway when he does the modifications. Kuma says his powers are very similar to my idol Nika. Then it cuts to Thriller Bark where Kuma got orders from the government to take out the Straw Hats. Of course, this is where we get one of the most honorable moments in all of fiction, with Zoro laying down his life for Luffy, offering his own head in Luffy's place. Kuma says he has exceptional friends, just as I'd expect from Dragon's son. Now Kuma gets word that Ace is set to be executed, and as a warlord he has to come to help prepare for a war against Whitebeard. But right now he's at the Sabaody archipelago and watching Bonney one last time from a distance as she's named one of the worst generation. But Kuma hears a commotion coming from the slave auction house with people saying somebody just hit a celestial dragon. And he knows that's basically suicide, so who the fuck would do that? As he takes a peek inside to see the Straw Hats and a celestial dragon unconscious. And Kuma's just distraught, knowing this is treason and that they about to send an admiral to get them at any cost. But as we know, Kuma intervenes, saving the crew with his power and sending them away. But Luffy doesn't know this, so he's screaming thinking everybody's dead. I couldn't save any of them. But Kuma's like, no, I'm just showing you the level you need to be at. You and your friends aren't ready for the new world. Don't go there yet, because I believe you will someday save the world. Kuma saw this shit coming from the jump. Now Vegapunk's preparing for Kuma's final modifications when Saint Saturn tells him to put a self-destruct mechanism in him as a precaution against him going rogue. Now of course Vegapunk's not fucking with that and is even trying to convince him to allow Kuma to keep some of his personality. But Saturn just shuts all that shit down, saying you've been given an order. Erase his individuality completely, and if you don't, you won't be forgiven. So all Vegapunk's pleas just fall on deaf ears as the day finally arrives for them to erase his personality. But Kuma says there's one task he'd like to program him to do, to protect the ship of the Straw Hats until somebody returns. I'd like to be a stubborn guardian for their home, since I won't be able to witness their growth. Now Vegapunk's catching on to how much he's hyping Luffy, like what do you really expect of him? But after seeing what he did at the slave auction, he really touched Kuma's heart. And if there's a hero out there that will change the seas, I believe it'll be him. And he directly compares him to Nika. Now Kuma pushes out a copy of his memories for Vegapunk to analyze as the reality sets in. So this is my life. I wonder how many people have been harmed or troubled by my actions. As he recalls his life growing up, his family, Ivankov, Ginny, Dragon, like Bonney, all that good shit just hitting home. As Vegapunk says, your life hasn't caused anyone harm or trouble, but your death will pain everyone who loves you. Listen well, Kuma, you too are a hero, not only for Bonney, but for everyone you've ever met. And Kuma says thank you, there's just one last thing, but Vegapunk pulls the switch and says, yeah, I know, as he falls to the ground crying and everyone knows what's happening. And of course his final request was to tell Bonney happy 10th birthday if he ever got to see her again. And that's the last thing he said before he's turned into this. That's about the third time I've read that. That's still... Of course, Bonney just falls apart after seeing these memories herself. Then soon after that, Vegapunk finds her. She shrinks down to the size of a child and gives him a hug, apologizing for how she was acting towards him and just the whole situation in general. He gives her a gift from Kuma, a sapphire charm necklace for her 10th birthday. That's when he explains that the Straw Hats are currently trying to save him, and that's when it starts to cut back to the present. Now, Saint Saturn is still clutching Bonney in his hand like a damn toy, but she starts using her devil fruit to fight against him, stretching her arms and limbs to abnormal sizes, and he recognizes immediately this is similar to Nika, as she hits him in the head. All her power fades immediately, and he just grabs her up again, saying of course she knows about Nika because she's Kuma's daughter. And it's because she hasn't truly made the internal connection to who Nika is, so manifesting the power didn't really work. But while this was going on, somebody snuck and gave Luffy a bunch of food, so Saturn like, what the fuck going on, and tells them to stop him from eating, which all the regular Marines do, but Kizaru is hiding behind a rock somewhere, looking like, phew, I just got away with something. Bonnie's realizing she can't manipulate her age around Saturn when he says it was him that gave her that skill. They experimented on her and other children, giving them the power of devil fruits without making them eat it. It was some kind of extract, and he explains how her power works, being able to transform however they want regarding the foreseeable future. But the power decreases when the user's knowledge about the future differs from reality. Now she says she wants to believe in Nika and that she's sure of his existence, vowing to search for him so she could be free as well. But Saturn says this is just a worthless legend. And even your father Kuma said I want to save people just like Nika. But it was also me who experimented with drugs on your mother. The side effects of the sapphire scale didn't stop showing up, so even her child inherited that condition. Hold up. And Vegapunk starts screaming, what? Kuma gave his life to cure Bonney, but he literally caused her... Yo, I don't even know what to say no more at this point. Because Bonney just starts screaming and crying. It would have been better off if I just died. And she's wailing, just apologizing to Kuma, as we see that what's left of him actually arrives on the island. But Saturn is tired of hearing her mouth, raises her up in the air and tells everybody to shoot her head off. And then they all try to take aim, but then a pacifista's explosions go off and send them all flying. So Saturn throws her on the ground and is gonna stomp her himself when what's left of Kuma mentally saves her life and takes the attack for her. And she's screaming that just it's her father, but Kuma turns around and starts winding up this haymaker. He's throwing this shit for everything he's put him through. From God Valley to his mother's death to his father's death to Ginny and now Bonney's situation. He's cocking this bitch back for everybody, even all of us that want to see him get his shit rocked. Now Saturn's confused because he triggered what was supposed to be his self-destruct button, but here he is somehow attacking him. And ooh-wee, ain't that a punch, man. One Piece know how to do a damn punch, and sends his big ass flying through a bunch of the buildings. And you see he has some hockey on that punch, so Buddy has to take a second. But everybody's just shook because of who he attacked, because one of the world's overseers was struck by a slave. But Vegapunk didn't program him to self-destruct like Saturn ordered, he just made it so his body would shut down completely once the self-destruct was activated. But he still has no clue how this is even possible, how Kuma's even here right now, and figures it must have something to do with his Buccaneer DNA, because they're said to have a special characteristic beyond their strong bodies. But Bonnie's just embracing what's left of him, saying, "Thank you, Daddy, for everything. I saw your memories. Mommy seemed like an amazing woman, and I saw how you actually wrote me all the time. That made me happy. I don't care if everyone calls you a tyrant, because I know there's no one kinder than my dad. To me, you're the coolest person in the whole world, and I'll never forget that." But then all the rubble starts moving out the way as Saturn stands back up like, "Hey, Vegapunk, I'm still waiting on your explanation. Did you have something to do with this? Why did he not blow up?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess you could say this is my fault, but you could also chalk this up to the power of love." But Saturn don't want to hear none of that and just regenerates before going in to kill Bonney once more. Now Kuma cradles Bonney in his hands as Saturn tries to kill them. Sanji comes in quick to save them as Frankie charges a laser beam, and he gets it off shooting straight through Saturn, but then Kizaru runs up on him and sends his ass flying. And of course Saturn just regenerates. But what's left of Kuma is unable to run, so the Atlas Vegapunk gotta carry him as they try to get Bonney out of here, but Kizaru says it's about time we wrapped this up. Vegapunk's like, "Come on, man, have you no heart?" But he is emotionally moved, just continues to carry out his duty. As a Buster Call is confirmed for Egghead Island, a traitor who studied the taboo secrets of the world, a survivor of a bloodline that should be extinct, and a pirate who awakened the power of that ancient god, this island has become completely infested. Vegapunk's pleading for them to call off the Buster Call, saying it'll set humanity back a century because of all his technological advancements. But Saturn says you still might be hiding something, so I can't trust it. Says they recently killed a boat of civilians that left Vegapunk's island, assuming they must have been a part of his treason as well. Vegapunk tries to cuss him out, saying they had nothing to do with it. "But you broke a taboo, Vegapunk. You dug their graves by digging into the past. You should have kept your greed in check." Sanji's trying to help Kuma and Bonney get out of there, while the crew tries to figure out their own plans of escape. Realizing there's a Buster Call, they don't got much time. They gotta come up with a new plan because the giant robot was destroyed. But the government ships just start opening fire on the island. Vegapunk can only watch in awe as his greatest creation is destroyed. Now Atlas gets Kuma and them in this pod to escape. Soon after they take off, Kizaru pops up and slices the tube open, sending them all flying out into the air, directly above all the pacifista, and Saturn orders them to shoot them out the sky. And all anybody can do is just watch. But then Vegapunk tells Atlas to let Bonney know. He cries to the pacifista, "Daddy, please don't shoot. Help us escape alive instead." Nobody else can really hear what's going on. Then the pacifista just turn around and start shooting up the Marines, destroying the ships and everything. As the thought of Kuma being used as a tool to kill his own daughter haunted Vegapunk, so he secretly programmed them all to obey her over the world government. He always wanted to make sure that Kuma was on her side. He knew doing some shit like this would end up in his own death as Saturn stabs him in the back. This egregious treason. And then he tells Kizaru to finish off Bonney and Kuma. Right here, the light man is looking pretty heartless, saying, "I'll make sure to get you both in one slash." But before he can even follow through, here comes that man Luffy, back in Gear 5, laughing his ass off. And he punches Kizaru, sending him flying, talking about let's have some fun. But now the drums of liberation that play while he's in Gear 5 are reverberating throughout the island, and it looks like That noise wakes up this giant robot, and as Bonney tries to help Vegapunk, she recognizes the melody from when Kuma told her the stories of Nika. And Vegapunk says that Kuma was right all along, that Luffy was destined to be the sun god Nika, and Bonney finally makes the connection. And he says a Buster Call is a tame problem for him, and people all over the world have been waiting for his arrival for hundreds of years. So Bonney finally makes the connection that Luffy is the man Kuma taught her about, the warrior of liberation that will come to save the world. At the same time, our old friends Dory and Bragi pull up on the other side of the island, saying we're here to pick up Straw Hat, or should we call him the Sun God? So a whole crew of giants pull up and just start wreaking havoc. And Usopp notices them coming from the top of Punk Records, happy to see his masters. After a little bit of thinking, they all figure out that they came to help, so they just carry on trying to escape, while Zoro is still fighting Lucci and he's just rage baiting him. Talking about your crew's waiting on you, you just a burden at this point. Zoro just tells him to shut that shit up, bro. I'm about to get you out of here. Now the Pacifista are still shooting the Marines because they're following Bonnie's orders, so the Navy has to start attacking their own weapons. Meanwhile, Luffy's still just dancing in the air, asking Bonnie why she looks so sad, why is she crying? She says, why wouldn't I? I've been waiting for you for so long. Luffy doesn't know what she means, like, huh? I've been here the whole time. He has no clue what a Nika is that she's talking about. She says earlier that she failed trying to be like him with a giant stretchy punch, and tells him to attack Saturn and show her how it's done, so he don't waste no time getting on his ass. Do that little wind up at the beginning and starts letting him have it. Got the booming Dawn Gatling before GTA 6, and everybody watches as he sends Saturn flying. Now they try to scoop Vegapunk and run away, and he says he's taking so much damage that if they move him, he'll die. Now Kizaru says you'll be dead either way as he goes to shoot a light beam at him, but Sanji comes in clutch, kicks that shit out of there, saying that light doesn't hold a candle to love. So Atlas carries Frankie, Kuma, and Bonney away as Kizaru says, I'm in a real pickle now. They'll expect me to bring back your heads after all this. As Luffy and Sanji stand between them laughing like, yeah, you better get started on that apology letter. Then someone else starts walking up, and of course, it's Blackbeard's crew. Like, these niggas are everywhere. And after Shorty clowns Saturn a bit for getting smacked around, she touches him and says mission complete. Now Saturn's just asking what the fuck she's doing here, surprised that a level 6 criminal from Impel Down like herself would choose to be a subordinate, but she says Blackbeard is special. And Saturn says so is his lineage. He got that D in his name. But Saturn's like, yo, what do y'all get out of pulling all these stunts? And they respond by saying the world. So Saturn attacks them and they just warp away. Well, they really only pulled up so Devin could touch him. I don't know what that means. I know they jacking people's powers, but is it really that easy? Well, they're still just on the farther part of the island when they run into this fucking caribou nigga who's still around. He begs for them to take him to Blackbeard, saying he has valuable information. But they take him along with them, figuring they can kill him if they need to. Meanwhile, the Marines are still fighting their own pacifista. The Vice Admirals are starting to get active and helping out and hunting down Bonney. They really get right on the job because one of them runs up on him immediately, but he is met by a giant fucking axe as Dory and Bragi pull up, hey, we came to get the Straw Hats.